Welcome, everybody. Thank you for participating today. And I'm going to give you a little bit of background on who I am. And hopefully that will help you to understand some of the questions that I should be able to answer pretty quickly in this process. So I actually have been a GTM sales consultant for startups for 8 years. I'm sorry?
I think somebody just left their mic on.
Oh, okay, great. And I have worked with solo founders. I've worked with founding teams that had revenue and sales teams anywhere from 1 to 2 employees to 100 employees. And in all of those circumstances, those organizations had a variety of different technologies with a similar struggle. And that was how to change the conversation when it came to selling demos, to accelerate their sales cycle, and to make sure that they understood the value of what their technology brought to the market. So what I've put together here is a presentation that I've done multiple times for entrepreneurs in an accelerator program, Alchemist Accelerator here in San Francisco. And as I looked at the objective for this meeting, I realized that the most important thing for each and every one of you to succeed in accelerating your deals to close is making sure that you do the homework up front. And even sometimes that means doing it prior to even doing a demo for a customer. So I want to walk through the primary reasons why a company would buy from a startup. The first one is innovation. They're looking for a competitive advantage in the market. They're excited and eager to see what you have to offer, and to see if it both is an innovative advantage for them based on what they have come to learn exists in the existing market, or is it also a competitive advantage and more innovative than what they might be building in-house. The other reason is startups are more responsive. They're smaller teams. Companies know that you're hungry to get new business. They really like to do business and get that white glove or very personalized support from you. Another scenario is they may just think they may be working on an application internally. It's not going to be done for several months. This is actually a very common strategy in the gaming industry. And they might see an application or a technology that you're building and decide to purchase it while they're building their internal applications. They also know, because you're a startup, that oftentimes that you're willing to negotiate financially. Then another scenario is they may be looking at adding a technology that you have developed to their core portfolio of many applications. And so they'll do business with you because they want to make sure they're looking at you for a future acquisition. There are also startups tend to be pretty easy to work with when it comes to legal and negotiation terms. Oftentimes the customer can encourage the startup founding team to accept all of their legal terms, or at least most of their legal terms, including payment structure. And the final reason is they just tend to be early adopters. There is just a subset of organizations and professionals out there who are known to always evaluate, purchase, and adopt early stage technologies. So the reason I want to bring this up first is that in my opinion and in my experience of being a startup consultant, where I have reduced sales cycles by 50%, it all started with before the demo, really analyzing and preparing to identify when you're on that conversation and you're doing that demo, what is really the motivation of the prospect. Any questions on this? Okay,
No.
great. So I've set the stage for 8 scenarios. Why would someone take the risk in buying from a startup? So the other thing that I find that is pretty common when it comes to founding teams is they forget sometimes that the customer has concerns that they're not expressing to you as they go into any sales cycle or any discussion. And every time they interact with you, they are trying to identify whether or not they can trust you to give over their business, their data, to your organization. So one of the questions they're going to be asking is, are you going to be around in 1 year, 2 years, 3 years? It's a legitimate question for customers to ask. The other one is, do you have enough staffing resources? And what is your financial stability? And why I bring these to the table is because even if you have a great technology, if they don't trust that you can serve them or that you're going to have enough financial resources to weather 6 months or 12 months, the chances are they won't purchase your product. The second thing that they're going to be looking at is, do they believe that your product really is going to give them the return on investment? Is it going to solve the challenges, business challenges that they're trying to solve? Is it going to cost them more money if they have to change, add new technology, if they have to revamp their internal processes or add additional staff? The return on investment for any technology decreases. So they're analyzing from the first time they have a conversation with you all of these potential factors. And then finally, they're also evaluating you as a trustworthy person and evaluating whether your team is trustworthy. Is your technology that you're presenting to them real, or is it vaporware? Is it really automated, or does it require multiple human resources on the back end to help facilitate that? And that isn't necessarily a situation where a customer still won't buy your product. But if they find out, if you sell them that you have a fully automated AI, and it's really not fully automated AI, and they find out about it, it could cause them to pull out of doing a negotiation and a contract with you. The other thing that they look at is, what is your domain expertise? One of the biggest recommendations that I've made to founders is, you might have a founder that has this great idea, and they're great technologists, and they learn and they see that there's a problem in a market that they have never worked in, and they have no domain expertise. But they have convinced themselves that they can build a product and sell it into an industry that they have no expertise in. And while that's true, it is very difficult to do that. And so my recommendation is, if you find yourself in that situation, find some advisors or other individuals. If you do not have the direct domain expertise for the industry, make sure that you have people in your organization, whether it's investors or advisors, that you can communicate to your prospect to give them the comfort that you do understand their business problem set. So now we're going to move on to preparing for negotiation. And all of these things that we're talking about are all thoughts and processes that can begin from the first time you have a phone conversation. Doing a little bit of work, perhaps asking some questions, really trying to understand why is the prospect, what is motivating the prospect to purchase something today? Is it because they have reduced, they're looking for an innovative product? Is their motivation really that they need to obtain a competitive advantage? And is it time to deployment? It's very, very important for you. The more that you understand before you get on a demo call or before you move past that process, the more that you can understand about that customer by asking a few questions, it's helpful for you to determine how you're going to set up closing them after the deal or after the demo. The next thing is do your homework. Do a little research on LinkedIn, put their name in, perhaps, scroll through their company and identify if their company as an organization typically buys early stage technology. That tells you a lot about your opportunity for closing them. Identify what's the decision-making process. Sometimes this is something that you won't be able to determine before you are on a demo call. Sometimes you may have an associate in your network that knows someone who works at that organization, and they can tell you that the decision process might be 10 or 15 people are involved, or this small group could also be involved in making the decision. It's very important for you to know. And then also understand who in your network has LinkedIn connections to the client, and try to gather at least a little bit of information to understand what the cultural dynamics of that prospect might be. And then finally, be prepared for objection responses. Each and every one of you in an early stage technology, there are going to be some objections that you might be afraid that a prospect is going to ask. And my philosophy is, if you have limitations in certain areas, it's better to just bring that to the attention of the customer from a position of strength, address what you're doing in the meantime, and to address it so that they have the best experience in working with your product, rather than waiting for them to ask the question. The more that you take ownership of your strengths and weaknesses to a customer, the more that they will trust you as a company that has integrity and that they believe they can trust to take the risk, because they are taking a risk with the startup in making an investment. Be careful not to tell them too much information when you respond to them. Practice how you're going to discuss some of your some of the aspects of your technology or your business that isn't ideal today. And then once you share that with them, ask them, does that make sense, or are you comfortable with that? The more you get the customer to agree that they're okay with your less than perfect offerings, or perhaps you have support that's different, and maybe as the CEO you're the only support person. Sometimes that's a good thing. Sometimes that makes customers nervous if they have a large team that might be interacting with you. Does this all make sense?
Yes, completely.
Great. Was there any questions? Okay, we'll move on.
Nope.
Okay, now we're going to go through negotiation preparation. And I think, as you can see, the main thing that I'm going to be sharing with you all here is doing your preparation for the customer before you get on the demo call is the one thing that is going to make your deal go faster, period. So that's why I'm focusing so much on this, because it's such an important piece. And I know you're busy, you have many things to do, but if you really want to close a customer quicker, this is the best way for you to ensure that will happen. All right, so let's talk about what a successful negotiation is. It's really, again, that planning, that preparation, that organizing. So one of the things that is not always the case is when you're doing a demo for a customer, they're really not interested in buying your product. They're just looking and seeing what's out there in the market. It's very fair when you set up a meeting to ask sometimes some very difficult questions for them, such as, so tell me a little bit about what inspired you to schedule a call for a demo with us. What is your timeline? Really try to understand if they're really even interested in negotiating with you, because if they're not, you can't get a deal done. You can't negotiate with them. Also, in this process, you want to make sure that you understand what's their vested interest. What's their vested interest? What's your vested interest in closing a new customer? And we'll talk a little bit about some of the things that it would be beneficial for you to have prepared before you have any conversation with any future prospect. And the reason, and we'll talk about that, the reason is time is money for you. If you are doing a demo to somebody that is going to want something that you're not willing to give them, there's no reason for you to make that time investment unless you're looking at simply practice. Prepare your gives and gets. We'll talk a little bit about what that means. Know the alternatives. What this basically means is assume that every demo or every customer that is looking at a new technology, that there is a chance they will do nothing. What are their alternatives? Their alternative is to do things the way that they're doing them today. Their alternative is to buy your competitor. Their alternative is to build it in-house. Their alternative is to, maybe sometimes they're trying to solve a problem for a business unit and they just decide to sell that business unit off. Understanding what the alternatives for the customer are, and this is a question, a very legitimate question you can ask on the beginning of your demo call, to really understand what are they thinking? How are they trying to make the decision? Do they buy your startup technology or do they sell that business unit off? Do they buy your startup technology and use it until they build out in-house? Many different variables. And then be ready always for objections. The more prepared that you are at any given point in time for handling an objection, because you never know when it's going to come at you, is only in your best interest. Again, building that trust, that confidence, and showing that customer that you are very knowledgeable about your business, you're very knowledgeable about your product value, and that you are working towards enhancing any feature limitations or support limitations that might exist in your organization, but you have a plan to ensure that they're going to be successful in the interim.
Kim, sorry, could I ask a question here?
Yep.
On the alternatives, from your experience, what is the most difficult alternative to negotiate with a client?
That's a great question. I think the most difficult one is they have not decided that they're going to do anything. So, you know, they're just out looking at options, and because you are a startup, but that's also the main reason that startup technologies are purchased.
Mhm.
So you really have to be open to the idea that just because you're getting a demo doesn't mean that customer has decided that that's the right path for them.
Mhm. Thanks.
Any other questions?
I do.
Yep.
Normally, in the second bullet point, when you mean identify everyone's interest in a deal, you normally try to check it before, or you have some technique while, I don't know, presenting or speaking with the customer to understand this?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So I know this, many startups go from schedule a demo on my email. It is in your best interest to always do a pre-discovery call. 15 minutes. I want to really understand your business so that we can create a custom demo for you and your team. Almost everyone will give it to you. And if they don't give you that extra 15 minutes, I will tell you that they're not really committed to doing a deal. So that is also one way that you can filter out, to your question, Maddie, what's the alternative? Who's really serious about doing a deal? So in that discovery call, that's when you have an opportunity to ask the open-ended questions. So tell me what might be driving this. And sometimes you have to ask multiple questions because they don't openly share. Another thing you can do is look at their website. There's a couple of things that you can find if you put in the extra work. You can see, you can go to LinkedIn. You can see if they've had a lot of shifts in personnel. That's always potentially an opportunity for new technology, but it tells you that the company's going through transition and change. You can also take a look at any press releases if it's a larger organization to see who they've purchased, what kind of products, what kind of partners they have, who their customers are if they announce them on their list. And it gives you a little bit of a sense of the type of companies that they feel comfortable doing business with. And then, you know, other than that, it's really going to be asking questions. So one of the things, if I'm just doing cold research, that I look for, and it's a public company, or maybe it's not a public company, but the CEO makes statements annually, I will look at their mission statement. What are their goal is to update all their technology in 2020. Great. We know that that's now a funded organizational initiative. Now your job is to be part of that, to get part of that money that's been budgeted. Another one is potentially downsizing. Another one could be, if you're in a particular industry, what are the industry trends? What's happening in that industry? And so what I will typically do is come to that discovery call and say, I did a little bit of research on your company. This is what I was able to understand. And I also understand these things about your industry. Can you, provide some more context on how this all is driving some of your interest in looking at our product? Does that make sense?
Yes, thanks.
Great. Okay, so planning. And so when I say planning your negotiation discussion, you're negotiating every time you talk to the customer. Even on a discovery call, even to set up an appointment. Every time you interface with the customer, it's a negotiation. So the more that you have a strategy with that customer when they see that you are consistent in each conversation they have with you, you have knocked out probably 3 of their trust concerns. So consistency, showing them that you value them as an individual organization, showing them that you come prepared, says that you are motivated and that you're going to serve them when they actually become a customer. It's all very important. So make a list of what you want and you need from them. And we'll talk about what some of those things might be. One of the biggest struggles that I see founders have is they don't want to walk away from a deal. But sometimes there are customers that are going to cost you money in time and resources. And you really have to make some decisions on how many of those customers you can take on, and you may want to take them on because they're a logo that you want in your portfolio. But if you take on too many, it will destroy your company. So it's a balance as a CEO and a founder that you need to think about. Always be confident. I know that there is no such thing as perfect technology. I know that startups have challenges that other more established organizations don't have from technology. Don't worry about it. You have to stay confident with your customer. You have to always demonstrate your willingness and your determination to immediately solve and support their issues at all times. Always ask them when you tell them something. Ask them, what do you think? Don't assume that if they're quiet, that don't assume. Always look for feedback. Sometimes they don't want to give it to you because that's their negotiation tool, right? The less they may think your product is great and they're afraid to tell you because they want to get the cheapest price for it. Listen, watch their body language. I know that's difficult to do, but listen, even on the phone, are they asking questions? Are they paying attention? Is there anything happening? And then get really comfortable when there's silence. And I'm sure you all have been to training, but silence in a sales meeting means somebody's thinking. They're thinking. You have just shared with them as an innovative founder, a new technology. You're presenting to them a new way that may change and take out 5 steps in an internal process that they're working on, and they're letting it all sink in. Okay, so what creates a deal? Sorry about the transitions. So before you go into a negotiation, before you decide, and again, I want to stress this is your decision as founders. Every demo you do, you should decide whether you want that business or not. You should walk into that demo and say, if this customer only wants to pay me this amount, I'm not going to put any effort into trying to close him. But you may decide that what you want out of that conversation is practice, information about his industry, and maybe you just want an introduction or referral to somebody else. So be very conscientious about what you really want every time you do a demo. And when you're, and if you hear certain things, when you're willing to walk away. And how can the customer address their own needs? What can they do? And then more importantly, what do you need? How many users do you need them to commit to you? What's the price the lowest amount of price you're willing to accept? If they want to have it for free, are you willing to accept those terms? And what are the conditional terms under which you're going to accept it? I'll give it to you for free. Mr. Customer, Mr. or Miss Customer, but what I want in return are these things. What's the contract length that you're willing to do that? What's the start date, the pricing, all of that? You all by now know that the minute that you do a discount with somebody in your early stage, it is very difficult for them to increase later on, even when your product is great. So it's a good exercise for you to think about, if I'm going to give my product away for free, what I've seen some people do, and it's legitimate, is they've crafted a price for founders who've only founding companies or startups who have not received more than $2 million in funding or $500,000 in funding. And in those circumstances, it really allows you, when that startup grows, if they grow, for you to increase your price. So these are just some tactics for you to think about. So sorry about the duplicate slide. All right, I'm just going to go through these. So the outline. What are your gifts? Your time is valuable. Please don't give it away for free. You are the founder, the CEO, probably the CFO, probably the CTO. Make sure people will respect you as a founder when you remind them that you are willing to give them your valuable time if they're willing to commit something to you. What you may want to give them more access to resources, such as, okay, well, if you're willing to do a deal with me, they may want you to be committed to hire a full-time resource for support that's in their regional location that they can call on locally. I'm just giving you some examples. They may want a speaking engagement at an event or a press release. So whenever you give something up, you want something in return, right? Press release, blog, cab or advisory roles. These are all really non-monetary valuable assets that will help you get your business to grow. And then what you would get in return for these things might be more users. Maybe you say, okay, I will give you this price, but you have to close on this date. And oh, by the way, I want a press release and I want something else from you. Services, introductions, that's a great one. From when it comes to being a startup, you want more introductions to their network, because that will just open many, many doors for you in new contracts. And then just a few more slides. So after the demo, be ready to ask for what you want. Don't assume. Okay, great. Mr. or Mrs. Customer, we just demonstrated how our technology is a great solution based on what's happening in your organization, the mission statement of your CEO, the challenges that you have with staff reductions and budgetary reductions. We've showed you how we can reduce your processes and take 3 steps out of a process. What I'd like to do is I'd like to discuss with you, how can we win your business? And how quickly will your organization be able to decide, how quickly can we get a contract signed? And let them answer the question. You may have to have 5 more meetings. You may be talking to a group that has the power to execute on that immediately. But you have to ask the question and you have to tell them you want their business. And let them know when you want the deal closed. And then, what are the other things that you could say is, I understand this is budgeted. I see that in your CEO talked about revamping IT technologies, but is there anything that could stop you from making a purchase for this project initiative? And it's either a yes or no question. The more you know. You want to know who are all the people in the organization that need to sign off on it. With COVID, because of budgetary constraints in many organizations, at least in the US, for example, Tesla's an example. Elon Musk has to approve every PO that's over like $2,000 that they could just purchase before on a credit card. So it's really important to understand who needs to buy in, where's the money coming from, and what are the risk factors of that going away? Of course, do they have the money to purchase it? And what other competitors are they looking at? And a competitor also is an internal team, or could be a consulting organization that maybe the VP is really good friends with, and he actually wants to pay for consultants to build something custom. Or maybe they have in-house staff where somebody's trying to build something custom because they're trying to build a career path for themselves in the organization. Does that make sense?
Totally. For me, at least, please guys feel free to ask questions or raise hands. I do have a quick question here. Like, this does happen, what you just said, that there are ulterior motives. Sometimes they just want to have a proposal because they're analyzing competitors and they already know who they want to buy it, but they want something to negotiate with. Sometimes somebody, at least in one of the stakeholders, already decided like, yeah, I'm going to buy it from a company, but they still talk to you. And this happens with both outbound leads and inbound leads. And that's okay. I mean, at some point you figured out like that could be probably the reason why he stopped responding to your emails after having 2 or even 3 calls or meetings. My question is, how, or is there any ways to like see some signals before, so that at the end of the day, you don't spend that much time following up and doing all those things?
It really is, it's about the first conversation you have with them. So it really is that. It is so important to ask difficult questions. So what I would do is, there are 2 facts, and I didn't put them in here. The facts are that 80% of the people who respond to a salesperson have already made a decision on another technology. So they're just looking for to tell their boss or their superiors, okay, we looked at these 3 products, we made the decision on this one. So I will, on a discovery call, I ask the hard question. Are you looking at other vendors? If you're comfortable to share, our time is valuable. We'd love to have your business. And here are the reasons why we think that we can add value to you as an organization. So you have to have your list to tell them, to maybe inspire them to say, okay, maybe we made a decision, but maybe we need to take a step back, and maybe we need to consider opening our mind to what this new organization has. You have to have your list of what is your unique differentiator that nobody else can do. And if you have a unique differentiator that nobody else can do, and you look at the company and you say, this would be perfect for their business, then you want to absolutely fight to get them to stall that decision that was pre-made and really give consideration. But if you don't have a unique differentiator, then you don't put that much effort into it, because you're not going to change the landscape. Does that make sense?
Yeah, most of the time the thing is nobody tells you that. So
you have to ask.
yeah.
You have to ask, And, part of that's a skill. That's like a 3-hour training. I could be honest with you.
Yeah.
You have to ask. I ask. And they tell me. And if they don't tell me, then I consider that a red flag. They're not, they're either serious and they're going to buy from me, but they don't want to tell me because they're going to want to come back. And the more information as a sales rep or you as founders know about the customer, the better that you can negotiate with them when it comes to finances. So there are some very skilled people out there that will not tell you anything, even though they think that your product is the greatest thing ever that they've seen, because they want to get the best price for it.
Yeah, companies do hire people who are best buyers, not just best people.
Yep. Okay. Just a couple more slides here. This is just a sample of objection handling, what you don't want to do. You want to keep it short. You don't want to give them too much information, just enough for them to feel comfortable with your response. Just answer what they ask you. Again, I prefer to just bring up all the objections that I think, or the questions that I think somebody's going to have before they ask them. That way, I'm always controlling the narrative and they're not. Don't be defensive and argumentative. That's a big one. Just be brief, accommodating, consultative and observant. So just very basic stuff. And I think that's all I had. So that's all I had for the presentation. I didn't get a chance to wrap it up, Maddie.
That's fine. You still have more time if you want to wrap up something.
Yeah, I think in summary, the idea here really is, if you want to close your deals faster, you've got to do the work before you do the presentation. That's it. And it starts from the very first conversation. Your opportunity is to coach the customer on how you want them to buy. Decide what an ideal sale is. What I'd like to do, Mr. Customer, is I'd like to, have this discovery call. Then what we do is, the next step in the process is we have a demo that lasts about 45 minutes. We prefer to have that demo with you and your technical team. Answer all the questions you might have about our technology capabilities, give you a few days to think about it. And then we'd like to perhaps do a follow-on discussion to really get a deeper look into your technology environment and really discuss the in and outs of what it would take to integrate our product. And then once we do that, we can put a proposal together for you and give you a timeline on when we can close. Do not let the customer decide the timeline for the sale. You tell them up front your expectations. I have 4 steps in my sales process. You will get every question answered. We will know every detail about our ability to deliver an ROI for you. And here's the steps. If you have a 1 or 2 step process, that's fine. But when you tell the customer it's 3 steps, and the first one is this call that I'm on with you, and then we do this, and then we get the deal done, it will set the stage for them. And oftentimes, 95% of the time, they will say, well, I'm not ready to make this purchase until 2021. Then you know that you just have somebody who's got some extra time that's just looking at technology, but they really don't have the money. So yeah, that's most of what I had planned to present today. I'm happy to answer any and all questions.
Yeah, Mattia has a follow-up question on the too much information. And then Tobias has another question. So Mattia, can you please unmute yourself and then ask the question?
Yes. I have a question on when you say to not give away too much information during a negotiation. I know this is one of the key pillars while negotiating, but in sales, can you elaborate a bit more on it, maybe with some examples? Obviously, I don't think you mean not giving away much information on the product or service or benefit, but maybe on, I don't know, on your company, on whatsoever. So which is the balance of this not giving away too much information?
That's a great question. So I'm trying to think of an example. And this example comes up because most founders are technologists versus sales folks. And so sometimes they talk too much about things. And so from a sales perspective, the thing to remember is this: until you're in a deep technical discussion, the conversations that you're having with this customer are focused on, this is what we built, this is how it will help you make money and help you be successful. That's it. Don't try to get, if you have to talk about some technology capabilities that make your product great, that's absolutely appropriate. But sometimes technology founders in the first call, they get too technical. And then what happens is the customer forgets that they're buying your product because it's a value. And then they want to analyze your technical skill set. That's not what you're trying to sell them. You're trying to sell them I can take 3 processes out of this. I can, I can save you money because what our product does is 50% of the price of the standard application out there. And we can do that because that application is old technology, and that, Fortune 500 company can't rebuild it. But guess what? We built from the ground up using all this new software. But at the end of the day, Mr. Customer, what it means is 50% of the cost, faster time, we have built-in ROI, streamless, your customers are going to love it. That's what I mean by too much information. There is a level of information that they do need to know, and that I encourage every founder to talk about. And that gets back to their trust in you. It is important for you to figure out how to address your financial stability. And I know sometimes you're not going to be in a position to do that, but if you're in a position to do that, get that out of the way up front. We're a founding company. We've been in business for 2 years. Our founding team has a combined level of expertise in healthcare that's 50+ years. We've built over 200 applications across multiple Fortune 500 companies. What we saw was the need to do XYZ. And because of our experience and our expertise, we have financial resources available to us anytime that we ask for them. And these are the type of companies that are financing our organization. But what's most important to us, Mr. Customer, is we want you to know that we have the financial resources, the experience, and the commitment to build out any custom features and functionalities that you may need, because we really want your business and we're committed to it. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, definitely. Thank you.
I think there was another one.
Something I also see sometimes very common with the startups is that even there are like the key technologies that they have to share to create that USP and UVP. The missing thing is what you exactly say is this means XYZ benefit, like the
Yeah.
pure business benefit. We have a question. We have a question from Tobias. He's asking, what is, in your experience, typically the thing that has most room for improvement in most sales organization, and also gives quickest results if done right?
And that goes back to planning. I can't stress it enough. What you know about the customer on the first call, that's it. And so there's two things. Making the decision on what your sales cycle is going to be. Because you may have such a simple product that if you end up in 5 meetings for that product, you've now lost money on the sales cycle. If your product is simple and you say, in a perfect world, if I'm with a perfect customer, how many meetings do I need to have? That is a very good exercise for all of you to do. All of you to do. And if you boil it down to 3, and then you look back at some of the discussions you've had and you're already in meeting 6, you have a problem. And the problem may be that you might need to walk away from that deal because it shouldn't go into 6 meetings, or maybe there are some technical aspects of your technology that those meetings are helping you to figure out. But be very honest with yourself that a particular deal should not be more than X number of meetings. So that's number 1. Number 2 is planning, asking the right questions on the discovery call. What's your timeline? Who are you looking at? Is there an opportunity for, this project initiative, or for you to decide not to purchase a product? And what, I'd appreciate it if you can. I'm a founder. I'm the CFO, I'm the CTO, and I'm the salesperson. And I am happy to work 12 hours a day to earn your business. But I would really appreciate if you can help me, tell me what I need to do to earn your business. They will tell you. They may not tell a salesperson, but they will tell a founder for sure. Those are the main things. I can tell you that right now, I actually took a full-time job. I can tell you right now that I've narrowed down my sales training pitch to 2 steps instead of 5. Figure out how you can minimize the number of times your customer has to meet with you before they buy your product. And fine-tune how those meetings are structured if you really want to close faster. Do they need 30 days if you have an evaluation? Do they really need 30 days? Can they do it in 7? Because if you give them 30 days and they don't even try to evaluate your product for 3 weeks, you're wasting your time. If they are focused on evaluating your product and they can do it in 7 days, if they're using it every day, then wait until they're going to use it every day before you give them the license. It's all about forcing the customer to participate in the sales cycle. And if they don't participate in the sales cycle, Maddie, they're not invested in making a purchase with you.
Couldn't agree more. Dan is asking about the first sale, and he's saying, in my experience, the value you create is important. How would you deal with it if you're working to land a first customer and do not have measured value or concrete numbers yet?
That's a great question. You don't have to have the numbers. You have to have a hypothesis or a theory. And I'm sure you do, because otherwise you wouldn't have been able to build a product. The first customers are often from friends and family, or from an investor, or from somebody in your network that makes the introduction for you. Most of those first customers typically are beta customers. You can structure it as, I will let you use my technology for 2 or 3 months as a beta customer. I will build out the customizations that you need. And then after that, you can either let them be a free user of your product, but if you need money, you can negotiate some minimal amount of money after that. So the first customers, and what's exciting for companies to be the first customer is that they have control over your product development, oftentimes. And they like being in that position of power. Did that answer the question?
Yeah, sure. Definitely made a lot of sense to me. I do still struggle a bit with the fact that even if you have these calls, you actually get to the point where you have your, well, I mean, once you've done your narrative, you come to the point where you really address the value points. That's still at the end of the call, they're asking, what are you selling me exactly? And I noticed that I get more specific questions on, I want to know more about the value they're adding. So what we are currently doing is to try to drive towards, like you're saying, a beta user. But often there's still a challenge to overcome there, that they really are looking for, look, what kind of data do you have? What statistics do you have on what it will bring me?
And I think that's a legitimate question. And I think you can make a hypothesis. Is there a chance for you to be able to, I don't know what your technology is there a chance for you to take in their data and do an analysis or do something to say, this is, or a subset of their data, or even some anonymized data, right? Or something. I think that those first few customers are challenging, but I do know this. They're going to come from people in your network that trust you. That's the first thing. You're not going to find that from a cold customer. It's going to be somebody who trusts you, and they're going to be willing to navigate through the beta process to help you provide to help you obtain those numbers. I don't think there's any other way around it. If you're getting that kind of feedback, that tells me you're doing a great marketing job, but your marketing job is pulling in the wrong customer set for you today. Does that make sense?
Another variable, Kim, if you correct me if I'm wrong, is that one thing is one possibility is also that you can give them a logical reasoning that why they should get X amount of output. And they're asking those questions because they're not completely aligned with your logical reasoning.
Yep.
That's number one. And number two is there are some customers who will not buy unless you have previous customers, and they're not going to be your early adopters. So keep them in your pipeline and come back to them later.
Yeah, that's the key. I mean, again, this all gets, the goal here was, how do you get to close faster? The only way you're going to get there is talking to the right people that are willing to close. And all of the work and preparing your objections. And honestly, when it comes to founding teams, it's managing your own expectations. And not taking it personally if somebody doesn't want to buy your product. It doesn't really mean anything. It just means that they're just not willing to take that risk with you today.
Patrick has his raised hand. So Patrick, can you unmute yourself and ask a question?
Yes, thank you. Thanks, Kim, for the presentation. You underlined the importance of the discovery call as a key for the whole process. Now, the discovery call is very easy to do with an inbound lead. I'm not sure how many startup founders get actually inbound leads. We don't get any. So I was wondering, what is your technique in the discovery call? Let's say you schedule the meeting with you by email or LinkedIn message or a quick cold call. And you have a first discovery call for 30 minutes. And you ask for the expectation of that person at the beginning. And she says, well, I'm just really looking forward to hear about your product today because it sounded interesting. And we're not specifically looking for something, but, you know, happy to learn.
Okay.
Now, what do you do? How do you make the people talk?
Oh, that's great. Okay, so you're asking me how would I respond to a comment like that?
Yeah, but yeah, your technique to open and be able to ask now questions. Because...
Oh yeah, no, that's great. So if that happened to me, I would say, thank you very much. I really appreciate your time because I know how valuable your time is. And I'm excited that we're on this phone call. And I appreciate you being very open and honest with me up front that you're really not in a position to purchase. But I do think this is a great opportunity for you to really understand what we bring to the table, because we have created something unique that nobody else can do out there. And our unique capability allows you to take 3 steps out of this process and also saves you money. And while and Gartner or this company says this is the new trend based on COVID or people working from home. So let me ask you a couple more questions. Can you give me a little bit of insight, because I'd really love to understand more about your business. What is driving any interest in looking at these products? Are you using something today? Are you looking at building something today? Have you noticed, help me understand that. And then I just let them talk, and they talk. Always. Do you understand why they're going to open up?
Yeah.
Because I'm not asking them to buy anything from me. So the one thing you want to do on a discovery call, that's really, the discovery call is for you to decide if you're going to invest in the sale or not. That's really what it is. But it also tells you a lot of information about industry trends. And that's really important for you to know. Every time you do a discovery call, every time you do a demo, you have more information that you will then use on the next conversation you have with a customer. We've been, we've spoken to 20 different companies this month. This is what we're noticing as a trend. And what's exciting for that is that our product solves that problem set. And I'm excited to show you how.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Awesome.
Wow, awesome.
Shall we, sorry, you're saying something?
Exactly. You're thinking the same thing. I think we should transition now to our hot seat session, because we're already a bit of overtime.
Do I stop sharing?
Well, yeah.
Okay.
And we'll transition to our hot seat session. In our today's hot seat is Matthias. He was already asking a few questions, but before we dive into, I would give a few minutes to Matthias so he can explain what he's doing or what his company is doing, and then where he's struggling with. So what is the concrete, or what is the difficulties he has in closing deals from demo to deals, and then we maybe what we learned from today, from the past hour, try to analyze it and provide recommendations to Matthias. And so I see how we can apply those learnings from today to his situation. Okay, Matthias.
Floor is yours.
Oh, thank you very much. I start explaining who am I and what my company does. So I am the co-founder of Wenda, and we basically help who distribute frozen or perishable food along the supply chain to govern data connected to traceability from the producer to the point of sales, independently from any track and trace or traceability technologies already in place. So we basically deal with food distributor, food producer, and or restaurant chains and retails. We give them a SaaS cloud platform that basically serves data, traceability data, and cold chain data from different data sources, normally IoT devices that are already installed or they can be installed in along the chain. And it sources all this data, organize this data, and then visualize it to give some insights, some first insight to the quality department, to the logistics and operation department. And then we are working obviously on making statistics and predictions out of it. So we basically work, as I said, with who handles perishable food along the chain. We normally deal with different departments in the company. So our sales cycle touches both quality department and logistic one, or operations / supply chain. It depends how the company is organized. And we have, doing this, we normally enter through or the CEO of the company, if this is not a corporate. If our target customer is a corporate, we enter through the supply chain or quality department. And then normally they present, if interested, the other departments involved, because we give insights to different, that are useful to different departments. And this is obviously, at least I think this is good, because we bring more value to different part of the company. Then I want to say what you think, Kim. But obviously it slows down a bit stuff, because we have to involve different actors. And we don't target in this moment large corporation like Nestle or whatsoever. We target mid-size companies, because what the value we bring to them in governing data connected to traceability is saving costs related to quality controls, quality analysis, and logistics operation, and increase up to 90% of visibility in supply chain, so they know better what happens to the product or to the processes still related to food traceability. So giving this value, we touch different departments, and from our perspective is something good, because you bring value to multiple departments, but then is also a mess, because you don't know from whom to take the budget. So who owns the budget? Then they want to involve the other departments, and it slows down things. And so we normally arrive at the demo, because through connections, through outbound, cold outreach, and marketing materials, we are able to arrive to these old style companies, also to make the demo. And then later on, obviously, they ask for the materials they saw, and sometimes for an understanding of the pricing. that is one of the most delicate thing, because we don't want to expose too much. Maybe we say the pricing model, let me say, so how the product service platform is priced, which are the point of price, which are the variables that can make the price goes up or down, and yes, we do this, and we ask also a next call to understand how they are organized in deep. It's like a supply chain analysis, very, very stupid supply chain analysis, let me say, but it's very, very soft, but it has to be done. Normally, it doesn't take that much meeting. With a few meetings, like 3 meetings, we arrive there, which is, in our opinion, good. When I say meeting, can be also 1 hour call, so like 3 hour work, 4 hour work, you can arrive there, so it's quite good. But yes, after the demo, they ask the price, so it's something we don't want to expose. We then send materials, and then we try to follow up personally. But yeah, we don't have, let me say, a bulletproof process. Also, maybe not the, let me say, the process applicable to everyone, because maybe there is not. I think there is not. But at least a template to take after the demo, sending the price and so on. Because I don't know, I don't, but then tell me what you think. I don't feel comfortable after the demo if they ask for the price to send like the offer without knowing all their points. So maybe it could be our problem that we don't know much when we arrive at the demo, as you showed before. But then sometimes not that easy to know in deep how they are organized before the demo, especially when we have a cold outreach. But yeah, these are mainly the points.
Okay, great.
I have a question to you and also to maybe Kim. What is the ticket price you were talking about? Is it like 5, 6 figures, or and also to Kim the question, does it influence the maybe bigger ticket prices? If you're talking about 6-figure ticket prices, do you maybe need to approach it differently and also take into account a longer cycle, because it's it takes them maybe a few months to get it done to close the deal?
Yeah, good one. I forgot to mention it. I am talking about this process about mid-sized companies. So like companies that make 50 million turnover per year up to 400, 500 million turnover per year. Because for more little company, after the demo, we are more or less able to send an offer directly straight away with a ticket size of 5K per year for the platform only. And then if they need the hardware, we can sell it. But when we talk about mid-sized company, we can have deals from 20K per year up to 100, 200K per year in this moment.
Okay, great.
Okay.
So
I'll let the Kim reply.
Kim, yes.
So
Kim.
I have some thoughts. I don't have the answer, but I have some thoughts, right? So yes, in the answer to the other question, yes, depending on who your market is, you do have to have sales cycles, different sales cycles. Ideally, you want to have, if the customer is in this revenue range or this company size or whatever the metrics are, maybe you have 5 different sales cycles to bias for your clients, right? I don't know enough about your market. But I will tell you this, that listening to, I caught a couple of things. One is that I looked at your website. So you have a unique problem. Are you getting most of your leads from your website?
No, from outbound outreach.
Outbound, okay.
Outreach. Yeah, yeah. In this
So
moment.
if you are messaging, oh, this is fast and easy and quick, and then when you message that to people, they think you have a product, a price ready to go. Do you understand what I'm saying? So if you don't have a, here's our monthly, quarterly, easy price, you're already setting the expectation on your messaging, and that's getting you the audience. But we talked about it earlier. If you're setting the wrong expectation that isn't consistent with how you're going to close the customer, it creates some, what are these guys doing? I don't really understand. I thought that they were like cheap and I can deploy this easy. Does that make sense?
Yes, 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 sure.
So you want to look at, I don't know what your messaging is. I looked at your website. My first 30-second, and that's how I analyze companies. What's my 30-second takeaway? Oh, this is, I could probably go buy this and it's probably just, $20 a month. So it's something to think about. Impressions are really important when it comes to customers. That may be the reason that you're getting the pricing questions, because they think, okay, great. What's the price? You sold me. So let's talk about that. How do you price your customer? Is it complicated?
No, we price an annual fee per location that they want to make visible, that subscribe to the platform. So they have, I don't know, number of warehouses, and it's an annual fee per number of warehouses.
Okay. And do they know that when you do the demo?
No.
Okay. That needs to change.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that if I were you, if you don't do it on the discovery call, I would set that expectation on the demo. Thank you for your time. We really appreciate it. We're excited to show you how we've helped companies. And we can talk a little bit after this, but this is typically how we engage with our customers. We want to show you our product value and our technology today. We'd like to hear your feedback and have a conversation. When it comes to pricing and having a deeper conversation about implementation, we can do that in a second call. We really look at factoring in all the aspects of your business. The number of, I don't know what it is, warehouses, whatever it is, right? So they won't even ask you for the pricing. What you want them to do is ask you for that next call, right? That's what you want.
Yeah.
So again, it gets back to tell customers how they buy from you. They'll listen.
Mm-hmm.
I do have another question. I'm just going to keep asking questions. Is there any concerns for any of your prospects that your product is going to replace somebody's job?
Sometimes, yes. In fact, we don't try to speak with that person.
Right.
We basically, for some functions, but not the managers, the low end operators, we can replace them. In fact, for example, one large prospect objection was, okay, I have hired, I don't know, 50 people in the quality department. I cannot fire them. For example, it was one of our, in fact, from these and from other objections from large, super large corporations, we said now it is not the moment. It is not our target now, the super large corporation, because we don't have any answer to that. Because what we say is, okay, make them make less stupid work, because in some part we automatize stuff, and quality controls and logistic controls. So people can do something else. But yes, in some case, for example, with one prospect now, their business case was the time saved per quality control, the amount of paper saved, and human resources saved.
Mm-hmm. I have a suggestion for you. I don't know everything about your industry, but I imagine when it comes to having a software solution that does cause people to lose their jobs, the best way to approach that is to go in high. You want to go to the chief operating officer. They will know that that is a corporate initiative. And if you get pushed down or you get an audience in a discussion, and I can tell you right now, 1,000%, there is not a company in this world that is not looking at cutting costs. You will get that audience every time, unless they've already found a solution for it, right? Is that the right role? I think so, probably operation.
CIS, Chief Operating Officer, or
go to the chief operating officer, and if you can't get an audience through an email, his admin will definitely, everybody is looking at cost cutting right now for the next year.
I have a question, making the business case, because for example, two real cases, one is Nestlé, the other one is a collective catering company here in Italy. So both of them asked us to understand the business case from their side, so to understand in which point they could save money, basically, and where they can increase visibility in the supply chain, because these are our two main benefits that we market. And obviously, they made it by themselves, but it was tricky because they asked the help from us.
Yeah.
So basically, they asked us to prepare, like, let me say, a template to calculate the business case and to send it to them, and then they, by themselves, with their sensitive data and private data, fill it in. So do you think like an Excel template, I don't know, a Word template whatsoever, could be a sales material when in the funnel? So like take this and calculate by yourself the cost, just inputting a few.
Yes, absolutely. Many companies do that. And a lot of companies actually put that on their front page of their website. I think that for a small company with what you're doing in the current state of the world, I think that's a huge, valuable tool that will get you a lot of conversations. And I assume you can probably make some fairly legitimate formulas for them.
And in which point of the funnel would you use this? Like in the first contact, or first contacts in the first part, or
how many customers do you have?
30.
I would put it on the front page.
Okay.
You have enough customers.
Okay. Okay, I see. And another question on when you send, like in the sales process, when you send marketing material or sales material, let me say PDF, presentation, documents, and so on, that obviously is one person asking it, but they ask it to share it internally.
Yeah.
Would you, because once I found myself like trying to train the champion or the influencer of the company, trying to train like a sales, I went a sales guy to sell better as he could inside the company. Do you prefer to like send very, very complete materials written and so on?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. You never want to let them misinterpret your sales message ever. So it is a lot of work. I would agree with that, but it's very important for them to be able to share it and take the personal credit that they're going to want to take. It's a career advancement for them, but to make sure that their leadership team doesn't misinterpret anything.
I have a quick follow-up here. If you're sending elaborate documents for this specific use case of internal sharing, is it better to send like a presentation deck, or is it better to send a video of that presentation deck with narration?
Here's my philosophy on that. People are busy. I won't watch an hour-long video. I will skim through a document, and if there's enough value, I'll watch the video. So I think both are important, but don't assume somebody's going to watch an hour-long a video.
I wasn't thinking an hour-long video. I was thinking more like 10 minutes, 15 minutes.
I won't even watch it. I won't even watch a 15-minute video, but I'll skim through a document. If I can get all the highlights in by skimming it, right, and it takes me a minute, think about that. They're busy. The document is really for them to have a reference point. The point of it is for them to have a visual aid that they can look at and say, oh, I want to read this in detail later. So that's just my philosophy. I could be wrong, but everybody's doing video now and it's too much. And people will watch it if they know that they need to learn more. But that's where I think the documentation comes in, is the quick, I need to learn more about this.
And when you, maybe it depends on also on the culture and the country.
Yeah.
But in your experience, I want to hear from your experience. I don't think there is the answer for everything. Do you prefer, when you send materials, do you prefer to send like fancy PowerPoints or Word document, super written Word document?
I think
Because,
it depends. Are they going to be presenting it to a staff meeting? Right? Because sometimes that happens. So I will send PowerPoints. But if I just want them to have all the information in like 2 or 3 pages, I'm going to send them the Word document.
Okay.
But following up your, like what you just said, that if I just want to skim, wouldn't like be by definition, or like rather like, okay, not by definition, but most of the time it just, isn't it easier to skim slides than document, even if slides are comparatively text heavy?
It depends on who's creating the slide, right? I just went through a presentation class where this person had 130 slides and there was like 4 words on each one of them. So it really depends.
So Matthias, what's your, if you look at the pattern and if you see the pipeline, like do you know like where are most of the leads are dropping off? Is there a specific stage, or is it more like they drop off at different stages, or they get non-responsive at a specific stage, or?
Yes, after the demo. And after I think there are 2 points. After the demo, And after when we send the offer, I mean, let me elaborate on that. After the demo, because we are quite good at entering, let me say, at creating momentum and at creating interest. Then we make the demo. They are happy with the demo. That's not that we say, sorry for the word, but bullshit before, and then we present and they say, no, it's not what I was expecting. No, they are expecting this. But yes, sometimes, or because you have a cold outreach, so they are not looking for you, but you are looking for them. So they say, okay, cool, super interesting. Let me think on that. It's not maybe our priority now. Let me think in 1 month and so on. And then when we send, then when we are able to continue the conversation, we have another call or meeting to understand better how they are organized internally in terms of supply chain. So which modules of our platform we can sell to them and which are the main point of benefit. So that we then send the offer, and after the offer, someone doesn't continue. So these are the two parts. Not because I don't, from after the demo, what I'm thinking now, so it's just a thought. This is because we talk about supply chain, and and supply chain is something hard for them. And when you talk about supply chain, you don't talk with a startup normally. You talk with Accenture, you talk with IBM, you talk with Boston Consulting Group, with McKinsey, and so on. So this is one point. For the point that they drop off after the offer, sometimes that the price could seem too high. Sometimes is that the SaaS price, so the recurring fee, which is very hard to be delivered as a value. So pay low, but pay forever. In this point, we also tried, just with the 3 last prospects we had, that were also asking new features, to say, okay, let's use you as a beta tester. Kim was introducing it before. Let's use you as a beta tester and pay a very low entry fee, like just for the project management and development stuff, and they pay a higher fee as you will use new custom developed feature, but then we will obviously use for other clients. And in that point, there is difficult to understand, okay, but why, if I pay an entry fee, do I have to pay a recurring fee? So then it is us that have to say, okay, can we financially or economically support not making them pay an entry fee, but just after development or immediately paying a recurring fee? So these are the 2 points.
Gotcha. Before Kim jump in, I have you said a lot of things here. So just want to have a very rapid fire few questions. So if I understand right, you do demos and after that people drop off. And if they don't, they have second call. And after second call, you send them a proposal and then they drop off. In the demo call, do you already schedule a next call? Like by the end of demo call, you already know when the next call is happening?
No.
Exactly.
No.
You don't do it, or they don't?
Sorry, I don't do it. I don't do it. I
Okay.
don't ask for a second call in the demo call.
Is there a specific reason for it, or is it just how you do it?
No, it's just how I do it. I never thought of it. I normally do before.
Okay. And then the people who, then you, of course, that means you follow up with the email and say, okay, let's have another call. And in that next call, they ask for a proposal, and then you send them a proposal, and then they never come back, and then rest of the things are your assumptions that that the price is high or things like that. And then there is a whole new topic about recurring versus one time.
That is not assumption, the recurring versus
No, not the recurring part. That's another topic. That's all I'm saying. That's another separate question where how do you handle the request about people who are not used to paying recurring fee yet?
Yes.
I let the Kim jump in now, and then we'll follow up. Few things I
Okay,
have in mind.
great. I will do my best. I do have to jump off here in a bit. I've got another meeting, but so I want to give some feedback on the send the proposal. I'm just going to tell you what my gut tells me. You're going to have to figure out if it's right or wrong. But my gut tells me that, as I talked to you before, I still think your marketing message makes your process look simple. So you may be correct when you say you talk about supply chain. And they're going, wait a minute, I thought I was going to buy this. So you really want to get whatever your external and outbound consistent with your communication on the demos. Absolutely, 100%. When it comes to the proposals, the thought that comes to mind is, what is your win rate? And are you expecting too much from these people to close? There's a subset of them that just won't close. I don't know what your win rate is. From the demos, I think I would measure it from anyone who gave you a meeting.
Yeah, we are not stage by stage tracking this.
Yeah.
Precisely, from a demo to a closed deal, it's like a 5%.
No, it should be more than that. Way more than that. Typically this, and I'm talking startup stats, and I've had many people argue with me, but if you do all the right things, right, and you stage your customer, and honestly, you refuse to give them a demo until they're ready to actually tell you that they're willing to buy, unless you want practice, right? That's another option. It should be anywhere from a 20 to 25% close ratio for anybody you consider a sales qualified lead. Now, most companies, by the time they get, so a sales qualified lead is pre-discovery call. Somebody said, I'm ready to talk to you. 50% of those might jump off because they're not qualified or they're not the right fit after the discovery call. When you do a demo, it should be a pretty high close, at least 33 to 50% of those close. Because that means that you're only giving your high value time to people that are the right fit for you and that have the money. Because time is money. That is the one thing that that is the only thing you control right now, is how you give your time. So that's my other thought. And I think there was another question. Maddie had some great questions. Was there another question in there that I didn't answer?
It was about the recurring fee piece.
Oh, I think it's, I think that without knowing too much of a detail, I think there's two things. I think that it may just be an industry specific thing. Maybe you're speaking to people who are used to, I paid $50,000 and I pay it annually. I don't understand why I have to pay it monthly. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So you can make it simple and say it's $50,000, and then you just tell your investors it's monthly 50 times 12, right? Like, I mean, seriously, don't make it complicated. Don't change them.
Yeah.
Right. make it great. You know, we have this promotion. If you want, you know, we can invoice you. And, you know, maybe you give them 5 or 10% discount if they're willing to be invoiced and pay up front for a year. Who cares?
Sure.
That's all about you making it easy for the customer. That's the other thing that I didn't talk about is your objective. If you're trying to close a customer, you just make it easy for them to say yes. Yeah, no problem. We'll invoice you 50,000. We'll give you 120-day terms. Can you maybe pay us $5,000 upon contract signature? And then that solves your, it's this much for the onboarding and then this much for the monthly. Does that make sense?
Yes.
That's a very common thing. X amount is due and payable and will be invoiced on contract signature. 90 days, 60 days, however you want to do it for the customer, we'll invoice the rest. Just make it easy. Anything else that you're getting barriers, I do agree that figuring out how to change your conversation around supply chain and just make yourself sound like we enhance your supply chain. Like, instead of like, you're not the supply chain, you're like an addition to an existing process that they have. That's just going to make everybody more successful. It's going to help their quality control, whatever it is. Did I cover all the questions?
Yes. If you have 3 more minutes, I have another question.
I do.
Thank you. I hate discount. The price, but I every time do it. How do you deal with discounts, Rakesh?
So most industries require or expect a discount. I don't know about your industry.
Yeah, they do.
They do. Okay, so you just increase your price. That's it. You know, you give them a discount. Who cares? They have to do it. That's how they get measured. That's how they get extra money, right?
Yeah, the purchase department get a bonus on the percentage of discounts.
Yeah, so I would just do that, you know, just rethink your pricing strat. I think it sounds like you need to maybe like rethink how you message your pricing strategy. I would, if I were you, I would keep it simple, bundled package. If you have up to 5 warehouses, and this much data, boom, this is the price, whatever it is. At least give them some parameters. But the other thing that that comes to mind when you told me the amount of people that close after you do a demo, I think you're doing a really great job on marketing. I think you're attracting the wrong people, or your message isn't really, you know, consistent with your price point. I would ask the question at the end of the demo, ask them what they think the price would be for your product.
Do you think
they say $20, you're like, okay, forget it. Like, I'm not, that's it. You know what I mean? Ask them, they'll tell you.
Yeah.
And here's the thing, if they're just telling you because they think they're going to use it as a negotiation strategy to get a better deal, then you say, wow, well, actually it's not. So thank you for that feedback, because we've got some work to do on how we message our value to the organization. So we really appreciate that. But it's actually, on average, it actually starts at this amount, and obviously the larger organization. So, you know, I'd love to work with you guys when you're in a position, you know, if in the future, you know, you recognize the value. But yeah, I mean, you basically fire them as a customer. If they really like your product, trust me, they're going to come back. But you don't put any more sales effort into it. You walk away.
Okay. Yeah, because the topic we are addressing is a really pain for customer and a hot topic now. And so it's not easy to to evaluate in advance if they need it really or not. So maybe,
Right.
yeah, it's not easy, but we have to do a better job on the prospecting phase, so discovery, if they are really a good fit or not. I think
Yeah.
that is also the point.
Yeah, and always asking the customer if they see the value, how much would they pay for it. I mean, I'm sure you can come up a way. They'll tell you, and they'll think that they're being really clever. And when you fire them, it's a pretty powerful message if they really want to buy your product. And that's when you know they actually are a real prospect.
Okay, cool.
That's all the time I have, Maddie. I hope this was helpful. Was this helpful for everybody?
It was great for me, and I think also for our audience. There were a lot of questions. You would be surprised how few questions we get in Switzerland. Your session got a lot of questions, so definitely it was helpful. I learned a few things, that's for sure. And I'll let Mattia tell you that if it was useful for him.
Yeah, sure. Very useful, especially also how you explain things. So yes, very much. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Yeah, well, I will be excited to hear. I'll make sure Maddie tells me how you're doing in a couple months. And the one thing
Sure.
I'll be looking for is win rates of at least 15%.
Note it down.
That's a challenge. All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a great week. And thanks, Maddie.
Thank you,
and we'll
Kim.
be in touch.